He'll demonstrate tonight, and Bob is going to show his expertise with a two-piece hollow form. Bob has been a member for a long time and been a frequent demonstrator for the group and very experienced and very talented turner. So, welcome, Bob.
Thank you, thank you. I'm going to try to cover a lot of steps in a process that I think has some amazing virtues. Basically, what you can do here is turn two bowls and make a hollow form out of them. And what it allows you to do is have an enormous range of design possibilities. It gives you absolute control over the wall thickness. It allows you to finish the inside of the piece. And you can do it with nothing more than a couple of gouges and a couple of scrapers. So you're never working way over the edge of the tool rest. You can get forms, as I said, that would be nigh unto impossible. This one I did at a breakout session a couple of years ago and finished afterwards. The entire inside is finished. The wall there is about 3/16. And you'd play hell doing that form with hollow tools. So tonight what I have here is a piece of burl that one of my sons gave me. It's some wild ass thing from Australia. What you start with is a seasoned piece of rectangular lumber. You find the center, you make the biggest circle you can on one of them. And then on the other one, using exactly the same thing, you find the center and make that same circle. And then you use your bandsaw and you cut them out, staying carefully outside the circle mark. I almost always work on a screw chuck. Other things are possible, but this is the easy way to do it. And basically, what you start to do is turn a bowl. Come to, but not impinge on that circle line you made. I'm kind of going to start backwards in some sense because I've done a couple of different forms here, and my hope is I'm going to glue one of these up on that little lathe, and by later in the evening I should be able to show you how we can actually turn and finish a piece, because the last step after you've glued them, and I usually let them sit overnight, but yellow glue will really do pretty well in an hour, is to turn them around, and that allows you to finish off the top. It's possible to do these either with the tenon approach that we're all used to, or doing two expand into it joints. This one has been done both sides, bottom's finished, the top remains to be done. What I've learned to do in terms of finishing these that goes really quick is I put one coat of oil on them and wipe that down while it's on the lathe, and then I put a coat of Renaissance wax on it and buff that while it's on the lathe, and I'm done. We're talking a minute or less.
Which oil?
To do the inside here. I've been using the Master Craft, whatever the heck it is, but I think any kind of tongue oilish kind of stuff.
BLO or tongue oil?
Basically tongue.
Tongue.
And this one that we'll pass around is basically using the two tenons instead of the two expansion joints, and hopefully this will not only get glued up, but I'll also, as you'll see, this is not going to be a perfect, it's darn good, but it's not going to be a perfect match, and there are numerous cool things you can do to hide that. In the blurb that went out, the last picture was a maple thing about this size, which looks mostly like a hollow form. except that whole natural edge top and the shoulder are a separate piece, set in, glued in, and then three little decorative rings made. You cannot tell where the joint is. So we'll find out what this is all about as we go ahead here. I always make lineup marks and carry them over. And that way the inside part of that lineup mark will still be there on the glue joint edge. And that turns out to be fairly important on some things and not very important on others. The two that are coming around, figuring out how to line them up is not too tricky. You can eyeball those. But on some woods, you really need a helpful guide about where you're going to end up. So again, this started out as a square piece, got cut into 2 circles. It's the insides that you're working with. I'm not used to this lathe. Where's what kills it?
Down the lever on the
Oh,
bottom.
this little lever.
Move it to the
Lift
left.
it up and move it toward the headstock.
Lift it up and move it toward the
And
headstock.
turn it.
There you go.
So the pieces this thin give you kind of a spaceship,
That one's good.
gives you kind of a spaceship.
Yes, we should end up here with something that looks very much like that cherry piece that's going out in terms of its shape. But again, you have great latitude with what you're doing. I think that's the screw moving up the.
Yeah, Chuck wasn't on it, right?
There's one place that has to be.
You have a spacer plate on here, I took it off.
A lot of play with
To the next side, I'll put it back on.
They
And
have
I always try to get down until I'm really sure I'm flat on this jaws.
It's like a quarter.
Don't forget to unlock it.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, it'll unlock.
The old rule about spinning, make sure it's okay.
I talked to one way at AAW about then putting a sensor on that.
And what I always do is start with the bottom piece, and typically what I'm going to have is a recess and then a kind of a stand up on it little thingy. The old rule is always about 30% of your final form should be that. It's going to be a lot of fun. You guys okay in front here?
Now that's the
need more light
outside of the bottom, right?
You need more light, Bob?
I think I'm okay. What I'm discovering here is that this is more chips than shavings, because it's not only is it a drill, but it's been sitting on my shelf for about 6 years. So I sometimes have some general idea of what I'm going to do, but I end up kind of. What you want to do is sneak up on this black line so as not to get over it, and come as close as you can to it. Where we could use a light is on the other end. So I'm pretty much there, and my decision now is do I want to play around with this general shape a bit. And I'm doing push cuts, pull cuts. I've over the years gotten pretty good at this kind of a shear. You can get down to really good guys that start about 120 grit or less when you're all done with this. It depends on the wood to some extent and how well you can hold that angle. Shavings doing this that like spiderweb. And a thing I do, and I expect you all know, is when you get light on these, the light will show you where the discontinuity in the curves are. And you can play around until there are no bad light reflections. If you're really good, you can turn off windows. On a good day, I can do it. But I'm seeing a pretty decent curve there at this point. And I have a personal penchant for the Badan tool. Everybody knows what this guy is. The French invented it, and I use them a lot. Come on, guys, slide it. It'll allow you to do things like making greases. It is. It's really dry, and it's really splintery. If I done it with like this, but one of the tools, you can see I'm actually getting shavings here with this thing. And what it does allow you to do on the bottom like this is you can actually slide the band side to side. And essentially you're doing a scraper job. But it'll allow you to finish off a bottom like this very quickly. Then your decision is basically do you want this thing to be rectangular or to have some kind of flowing curve line. I'm gonna go for a little bit of a flowing curve one in here. And that's probably about it for that. And now I'm going to do what everybody tells you, golly gee, you guys don't want to watch me do. And I probably am a little compulsive about this, but I work my way all the way up to 2,000 grit, and Bob's here, and he should probably appreciate that. At the end, you're getting almost an automotive finish at 2,000 grit. It's automotive scene paper.
Do you make the bottom of the tenon, the expansion tenon, deeper than the?
I try to make it come out flush so that this looks like a continuation of the body of the bull.
But do you find that breaks easier then?
It will if you overdo it.
Yeah. Okay.
And I don't, actually, now that I'm feeling this, I guess I could go a little deeper on that, but we'll see. The one thing I do see here is, in spite of all the chips and noise, this is going to be a pretty spectacular thing when we're done with it.
What if we don't sand the whole lot, just pretend we do it?
You want to put the shield up? Would that be better?
No, the way the big stuff is, you just all the way.
Try to go quick.
Just go right to 2,000 now.
Okay, I'll quit. The real problem is once you've done the inside, you start to lose your ability to come back and sand it. So I'll try to go quick and not pollute you too bad.
Right. Right.
Breathing's overrated. It's a thickness thing.
Anyway, it's definitely going to be a pretty piece.
Nice piece.
Rather than completely wipe you out, I'll quit at 400. But just know that my normal pattern is all the way up to 2,000.
Oh, I go to 12,000, but I don't do it.
I just try to turn it where I don't have to sand it.
Yeah, if there's anybody here who really believes you can turn to the level you don't have to sand, I'm open for learning. I've never seen it.
What is it, Bob?
I don't really know. It's some kind of an Australian burl that one of my sons gave me, and it's been sitting on a shelf for about 6 years.
It'll go much quicker in the time lapse, Bob. Don't worry about it. So full finger gloves, huh?
Yeah. So that's stage one, and this will be the bottom of the piece. And as soon as I get educated here. Come on, baby.
Need second hand?
Okay, you can have No, I'll leave it in and do the other hand. So,
Now, Bob, is your insistence on leaving that line, is that just so you don't have to spend so much time getting both of them the same diameter?
yes, you want them to be nearly perfectly the
Yeah.
same. And that's a way to do it. And also, as I said earlier, carrying over the lineup marks. I've got 2 on here, 3 actually, and I carry them over the edge so that there's something to look at. On a lot of wood, that's not much of an issue. Like the 2 pieces I'm passing around, you can see where those line up.
Now, were those 2 pieces originally face to face?
Yes, I'm putting the screws into the cut section.
So it doesn't matter that the surface is wavy because the other one is made to it.
Exactly.
Okay.
The flatter it is, the less you have to give it.
Use a bandsaw or a chainsaw.
These were done with a bandsaw.
So if you, on some of your dry pieces now, it will pass around. If it gets a little egg shape or a little warp, you could put it on a sander, get the 2 surfaces really matching, glue it together, and then return the outside of the 2 pieces once they're glued.
You can certainly touch them up and sand them to fit.
Depends on how thin you make it. Yeah.
You're correct. If you're working real thin walls, you want to think about that.
All right, sure.
So essentially, we're going to do the same thing here, but we're going to think about what we want in terms of a decorative top. Again, on the one that's passing around, a piece of cherry, it has quite a raised limb. And one of the things you do is to make as small as you can, but a place again where you can expand into that. So generally your top feature, if you go at it that way, is going to be pretty good size relative to the overall piece.
After your demo, have you done it with no hole? No?
No. Although the guy who's kind of the master of this does globes. I mean, you can do two hemispheres, glue them together, and then he's both painted the globe on it and pierced it.
Right.
And if you want to spend 1,000 hours making a piece, you can do it.
If you wanted to make a small entry hole, you could just drill that and screw it onto the screw chuck afterwards, after you shape the outside.
Basically what we're going to do here is on this top piece, when we turn it over to do the outside, we'll go through the middle of it.
Yeah.
And then we'll turn it over again after it's glued, and that's when you finish this part.
I was saying if you wanted a small entry hole,
Yeah.
you could just screw it on there and then after you glued it together, clean that up.
Yes, indeed. And if you're lucky enough to have a vacuum chuck, you can do all kinds of magic stuff.
Oh yeah, everybody's got one of those.
So what we're going to think about here is something that looks a little bit like that.
Okay. I'll do that.
Bob,
Sir,
you said at the beginning that you would glue something up so you could finish it later. Did you do that?
no, I was waiting for it to come back. It was
Oh,
circulating.
okay.
So where are those two things that I... They're down the end. Probably not a bad idea to stop and do that.
Practice wheel fight.
So, there we go. I've only ever used yellow glue, but that's because that's how Brian McAvoy does it. And I don't know that CA wouldn't work. But since both sides of this are finished, the big deal is to only get glue on the edge you're going to glue. And I brought this high-tech bottle of glue.
Correct. But I would have to keep track of that. The last thing you want to do is see the inside after that. Yeah.
Smart enough to finish it on the inside, not finish it on the outside. Little waxes, yeah, it's like a big difference in the
So typically I dab it on and then go around and wipe that rim to make sure there's no excess glue at all on the inside. And then go through the same process on the what is or will be the top piece. You need to have some kind of a pusher. I know a lot of you know about golf balls. They work pretty good. You can make things that fit precisely. And at this point, the game is to line up your and I was being a little wise and didn't mark it well, so I'm gonna have to play around until I find it here.
Bob, at that stage, would you normally still have your alignment marks somewhere?
Somewhere, yes. Like I said,
Hopefully not on the inside.
I thought I was smarter than I was here.
It's not like there's any pressure.
Here we go. Yeah, not like there's any pressure. So now I found it. And at home, of course, everything fits perfectly. So the name of the game is to spend a little extra time trying to make sure you're as lined up as you can get. and then to put some real pressure on this.
Do you ever tape the outside to help line it?
I never have, but I suppose you could. And
Put a lot of pressure on it when you open up the seam, or your seam's tapered or something.
excuse me?
In other words, if you're tightening, wouldn't you be opening up the...
If you overdid it, yeah. But theoretically, and we'll get to that later, theoretically you've got two near perfect faces here. And at the end, you can sand them. And if you don't like the way it's worked out, there are some things you can do to disguise the joint. And I actually thought I had this one a little better than I do. Oh, it's pretty good.
Bob,
Sir.
they might look like they had work with it.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's the case, because there's one spot here where
Did you ever retrude that surface?
I could have. Generally, right after I turn them, I finish the insides and then glue them, so the time elapsed is usually not very much. But that's the basic process you go through. You want to finish the two insides, get that edge as level as you possibly can, and I'll show you a trick for that, and then glue them up under pressure. And what this will allow you to do once the glue joint is good is finish the top running free in the chuck.
Like that.
Oh, yeah. That was just
Scraper, what's a scraper?
Sometimes that's old school. That will work.
You can tell by the sound of that wood it's coming fast. Too much overhang?
Just playing around with the design idea. We'll see how it comes
That was a big bite. Snow in August.
You got it. When you're doing this kind of an approach or cut, you want the edge of the gouge at a very steep angle, and you want the tree to open up just a little. doing here is looking at that black line to see how close I am. I'm pretty close.
Someone's there.
One more touch is probably all we're doing.
Bob, are you shear scraping or riding the bevel there? I can't quite tell.
Sometimes one and sometimes the other, but mostly shear scraping.
That's what
I'm trying to sneak right up on that line and still pay some attention to my curve. I'm almost at the screw, so I'm going to put now.
Well, how can you be sure though?
Something tells me there's wisdom in that.
It's okay, it's slower at the center anyway.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I could have turned the time, but I don't have a truck scale. I can turn the time and down on it.
And this is just refinement detail that I'm making up in my head as I'm looking at it. I've got what will be two layers of detail instead of one, and this actually is dished a little bit. It'll have almost an oriental kind of a feel to it when it's done. I'll try to spare Merrill as much as I can.
Substantial break.
Like I said, I understand sanding is an issue, but I also understand that the reality is they spend more time sanding and finishing than they do turning. And in many cases, multiple times as much sanding and finishing. And unfortunately on this piece, I kind of got to sand the outsides at least, because if I don't, I can't get back to them. So, my apologies. Look right at the end, we'll do one more very crucial thing here, which is we'll make the little interior spot that we're eventually going to grab.
He has to cut the face here.
So we're seeing the reflection of that. The outer rim looks way. Hey Bob,
Sure.
that outer rim looks way out of round still. I don't know if it's just
It is.
okay. On purpose.
It's I've snuck right up on the black line, is all I can tell you at this point, but we're gonna make it level.
That's pretty awesome. It came loose or something. It didn't look that way a minute ago. It suddenly caught my eye. You see better on the camera than
I think the rattling is the handling there. They rattle a lot. May have a loose pulley too. They should check recently. And check recently and make sure that's right. They will make funky noises.
Okay, so what we're gonna do now is make as small a place that we can grab it as we think we reasonably can. And probably gonna need your hands again, Ron, or somebody's hands. Okay, so what we're now going to do is commence to finish the inside of our two bowls. And we're going to do it through these expansion grips. Hopefully.
Take that expansion joint, 8 dimensional.
I guess I make them different depending on how soft the wood is and whether I'm using square jaws like these or dovetail jaws. With the dovetail jaw, I actually think you could get a better grip than with these. I know one way loves these, but I work a lot with
They sell
dovetail
both.
jaws.
About next month, I'll nice folding maple.
First thing you want to do is take just a little bit of material away from the edge. And if we had the tailstock up, I'd be using it, but we don't. So,
it's right here.
where is it?
Behind you.
Norm, won't you pick that up? He's got the
The old safety first rule.
dust.
So basically, you want to take a little material out of the middle and away from the edge. The reason you want to do that is you're going to try to get this edge flat. You don't want anything in the middle crushed. We just a lot of fun.
Filled up with split them in half. Bench outside my shop covered up with a tarp. They're out of the sunlight.
This stuff started cracking. That's from the AW, isn't it, gorgeous?
Yeah. Richard Kennedy does some neat stuff like that.
Well, can I ask a question now?
Sure thing.
Since the two pieces, the top and the bottom, were mating pieces when they were sawed apart,
They should be close.
you don't want to just leave it wavy and let them, because that seems like that would disguise the joint even better.
And I may do that. What I'm looking for here is a pretty flat. Homie might use a straight edge. This works fine. And the question is, are you flat across this pretty much the whole way? And the answer is, you are. It surprises the hell out of me with the wavy joint.
So you're suggesting he glue it up top and bottom right
Yeah,
now?
and I think it's a good suggestion.
Without?
All that's really important is that you have as flat a surface as you can
It
get.
doesn't matter if it waves.
And it doesn't matter, and in fact, the wavy would actually help with matching up the green. So I may in fact choose to do that.
So what if you just took the other half and put it up against it now and see how it orients and see if you can do it that way?
I'd be curious to see how it would.
You've got to cut that center nub out.
Yeah, it depends how much height you got, right? It's got a lot of height in the middle.
That center nub should not be the way.
Yeah, that would be the one thing, I guess.
Clearly,
You could
clearly
sort of
designed.
take some of this out, but you surely could at this
Well, it won't be
point.
any higher in the middle now than it was when it was
You're right,
flat.
yeah. Plus he's holding some of the other side out, so there is.
Like it fitted right on.
Match up the marks. Do you still have your
You can
mark?
bring up the tailstock
Yeah,
and
I've got the, I'm looking for a mark here.
Thank you, just went by.
I think there's one there, and one here. And I'm looking for the general direction. It's either here.
See, that's really,
I think that's it.
There's no gap
That's
there.
it. There it is. I'm matching very well here on this edge, including this fault. So I think you got a good point, Marilyn. Instead of messing around with trying to take off more material and make these dead perfect,
because it won't match. I mean, it
I
won't
may
match
just
up. You take off-
want to touch it a little teeny bit because there was some wax on here with
Yeah.
a little sandpaper, but otherwise it should be a good match.
there was wax on it. When you bandsawed it though, there would be no
It
wax.
wouldn't be wax on the inside. would
No.
it?
If it was
Wax
on, if it was waxed on the outside, it's
It's only on the outside, right?
Yeah, the bandsaw is
Sir.
great.
Oh, hey, Bob.
Because it's melted.
Yeah, when you come to a breaking point, it's 8 o'clock, we can take a 10-minute break.
That clock's dead.
You come to a whole...
It's 8 o'clock.
It's 8 o'clock.
Okay, well,
Come to a breaking point.
it's fine with me. Let's break now.
I don't think so, it's moving,
Oh,
so.
it is. Yes, that was.
Yeah, that's the screw ball.
It's on state touch.
Whatever that is.
Okay, we're gonna take Marilyn's advice and just go with a wavy edge. And see what happens.
So we all know who to blame.
It doesn't work out, it's my fault, I'll take this, I'll take the
Like
piece.
I said, hopefully this thing's gonna stay on here.
And if it works, Bob had the wisdom to listen to you.
My general rule is what we're doing here is kind of sneaking up on setting the wall curtains. And that's again a judgment call, but if you wanted to, you can be very specific about it. Chris in his memo a couple of months ago pointed out these wonderful French calipers, and if you really are an old engineer, as many of you are, you can set this gap to whatever you want it to be and work on this until it fits. I tend to kind of go aesthetically with what seems right, and in most cases that's going to be less, a quarter of an inch or less. I don't very often go down to really thin. The bigger the pieces, the fatter my walls are. Little pieces I can go with skinny walls. But this is, in my mind, the best bang for the buck out there. And I think Chris would support that. So what I've done here is kind of snuck up on what I think will be the wall thickness. Is just to try and eyeball the outside curve while I'm working the inside curve up to the point that I think I'm close, and then I'll go to the calipers. And we all know the rule about leave as much material in the middle as you can, because that gives you stability on that outside wall. As you get further down into the piece, the outside wall gets unstable and starts to vibrate. So I've got something more than a quarter inch there, and I can just using my hands as a caliper feel what I need to do with that wall and roughly where I need to do it. And incidentally, I do that a lot. It's just, even with the lathe running, you can do this and get a real good sense of how uniform your wall is, and you might need to work on it. that's pretty good. It's weird wood, it's really humbling. And this is Richard Raffin or Ray Key was very idea of how to do a bowl. They started in the middle most of the years. The other thing I figured out a long time ago is there's lots of talk about how to remove wood from the middle of a bowl. And the fact is, you're just taking out wood, so whatever works. I don't think there's any particular magic to it. I play games with it. Really wanted to have fun, you could leave something like this as a medallion in the middle and you could actually see through the hole in the top of the finished piece. Or you could, before you put the two halves together, do some pyrography in here, put a design in there that would be visible through the top. Use the texturing tool. You can do amazing things with those texturing tools. So there are a lot of things you can do besides just getting a plain Jane finish.
The station.
So, in his memo last month, Lars mentioned that he's learned something from me. This is a magic tool. Anybody who tells you you don't want to do scrapers on bowls is full. There is no better way to get the bottom of a bowl the way you want it exactly than using one of these big guys. And following it up with a little one with just a little teeny crown. And you can be sure using this that there is no either bump or bulge in the bottom handle. Much better than anything I've ever been able to learn to do with the other. And if you're so inclined, you can even go up on edge with one of these and now you have a shoe scraper. You know, the world thinks you need to be flat on the tool rest, you don't. But I do follow the old rule about work down, so if you do that, after a while, you just develop a feel for that bottom, and whether it's a nice smooth curve or not. said, it's one of those things that after a while you get a feel for it. You can just feel the shape of the bottom as you're going through there. And I see Todd nodding, he's done it too. And really, if you want to, you can come up on the edge like this and use it as a shear scraper right around. And in fact, it's more stable than a shear scraper. The shear scrapers tend to be thinner than these tools.
Thompson sells a monster shear scraper now. It's just, must weigh 6 pounds. No flex in that tool. You can really get it over the tool rest. I got a 3-foot handle you can put on. You see that thing? It's like
I don't have to sand that one because I'm not going to glue this up tonight.
this project.
So we're done with that piece. And we'll move on and do essentially the same thing with the other one. Do we need to do that? You want to pass this around whilst I'm working on the other one? And again, this is the top. I've done my detailed design here. And at the end, when it's glued up,
This is not going to stay
will
in the
be,
same place.
would be using the bottom to support the work and be able to either use tools or sandpaper or both to do whatever we want to do here in the center.
That shouldn't have to do with the same, the other one.
Do you have plenty of time to finish the other one?
Probably not.
I would rather see that being finished than that one being hollow.
Okay.
Unless there's something special about mounting that one or something.
There really isn't.
So you'll do nothing to make sure the rims match? No work at all?
Not on this one. I think Marilyn had a good idea. The fact is, it's a wavy rim. They appear to match perfectly when you put them up on each other.
Can we see them?
So why
Can we
mess
match them
with
up?
Yeah, you probably can, actually. Go ahead, just pass them around, see if they match up. I had it matched here earlier.
Yeah, he had it matched, we just gotta find the markings. I mean, even if it's a regular fence, since they're cut from the same piece.
And for anybody who hasn't found them, I do have these handouts that really very details about how to do this. Feel free to get one of these in here. All I need to work on that.
Oh. No, you don't need to test on that. Okay.
I'm not sure it was I'm within a fraction of an inch here.
Up for those jobs. All the way close.
I wonder if this chuck will work on that.
No.
Nope.
No, it's got a different insert.
Different insert?
Yeah.
Yeah. Shucks. Well, conceptually, what we're gonna do is grab this and expand it. If you've made a bigger base ring, you could either grab or expand.
Does that go onto that, Chuck?
Yeah, it fits on that other one.
So you could open that up just a tad
Now
with your
just
Badan tool
use
on
that.
the lathe.
put this on the
Does the other
No,
side,
it goes in there to chuck, but he can't do it when it's on the chuck.
no, does the other side fit, does the top fit on this truck?
See, I want to work here, I want to work
I know,
here. I know what you're saying.
But does
If I
that,
grab
does that
this,
bottom fit on that chuck?
No, he wants to put the top on this truck. He wants to reach on the bottom.
I understand that.
Does that top fit on this truck?
Chuck the top on there and open the bottom and then put it around.
Yep. What I'm trying to remember is how thick I am on the bottom. But you're correct, that it worked well.
It's not true. He'll turn it on slow, he'll be able to tell if it's true.
Certainly ought to be a little room here.
That's moving.
It is.
Well, a nice bottom detail.
So while we're at it, another little decorative thing that I do a lot of, in addition to making grooves in the bottom. And I hope I'm not so thin that I'm gonna go further at this point. I could.
You'll have a very nice penny.
From the guys out in Chapel Hill, I've learned to use those formica chips. And you can burn black lines and anything with them. I thought I brought one, but I don't see it. Anyway, you can get decorative black lines in the bottom of your piece. And I guess while we're up here, we could do Marilyn's favorite thing, which is stand up joint.
Marilyn, you wanna get up there and help a little bit?
Well, this won't be so bad. This is not as dusty as floor.
You would want to turn it
They're all
around
dusty
first,
when you
though,
start
wouldn't
sanding.
Bob,
Huh?
when you want to turn it around first and use that new cut as your new reference,
Doesn't matter at all on doing this joint.
you're going to do that joint, then you're going to turn it around?
Sure.
And do the bottom?
I don't think it matters when I do the joint.
Okay.
They're both reference off each other.
Right. As long as he doesn't try to do it again.
Right, that's the question.
What's ready to start with?
I think this is the At least visually, the joint is disappearing for me.
You said that there were a couple of things you could do to help hide the joint.
Yeah.
What were those?
One obvious thing you can do is a pattern of burned lines. You can burn a line on the joint and a couple both sides of it. If you're into pyrography, you can use a fish scale. Do a burnt line and put the fish scale design on both sides of it, and it looks like you're being artistically creative. So what you're really doing is pulling your eye away from it. You could also use a texturing tool to do some stuff in there. I've always done simplistic things like burn 3 lines, and then your eye doesn't know what to look for really. And the center line is a hidden joint.
Another one, it's a couple of wire.
Bob,
Sir,
I'd like to point out something that Jeff and I discussed many months ago. If you're using formica to do burning,
yes?
Jeff suggests that you don't inhale during that period.
Well,
There's really nasty stuff that comes off of that.
if I were working at home, I'd be wearing a full face shield and a breather.
Good.
That's how I always
For
work.
everyone's benefit.
Formica is,
Oh, yeah. I'm going to talk to Jeff about that. He's a chemical guy. He'll tell
Jeff
you
would
what's
know,
in there.
yeah, Jeff would know.
Or what'll be in you if you do it.
I'm usually right by the window.
Most of us do all this time.
But Formica doesn't wear that. I think I can hold my breath.
Now, I've got some visible flaw stuff here.
Defend something like that.
Where we talked earlier during the break, and I think between the time I cut these and today, they actually worked here. Shouldn't have, but they did. On the other hand, here's a section where the joint's almost perfect. And if I take that on up through the rest of the grits and finish it, there won't be any visible line in there at all. And I may salvage this piece in that way, I think. So, we are where we are. The thing at this point is turn it around and by knowing this Molly, it almost fits. Only in America.
Like an 18th of an inch, not even. Just a little more off.
Or use Harry strict.
I think for what we're going to do, that should stand up. So at this point, you should have free range to work on the top. And it's really just a design decision for you. The inside of this, as you saw when we passed it around, is fully finished already. So the question is just how do you want to treat this edge and how big do you want to open up that hole? Obviously, we're going back to plan A.
Make it a little bigger.
That's right, hey, make it a little bigger.
Yeah, he almost got it on. And he tried, he thought he had it, but he didn't.
It's interesting. The inside just has to be
I've seen Harry do it, but it's 10 minutes.
things we're going for.
There we go.
Very soon.
Oh, yeah. Wobbly, but not very good. Wobbly, that's good.
About 5 of 9, Bob. 5 of 9.
Okay. We'll try to see what we can do in 5 minutes. Yes. One is either short. They're very well, you used to get
That's very huge.
And whether we just kind of making this up as we go along.
How much wood you got up there?
And not quite go through it. Per Jeff's advice, if I had my piece of formica, I would make a black line here to match this one, and another one here, and I sand it down and finish it, and I do it. There you go. Very good.
It makes it hard to get the candy out.
Yeah. Shake it. Piggy bank.
Shake those M&Ms out.